would we be given warning at the beginning of a programme if there's going to be anything about the Beatles, as all Beatle fans can make sure to listen, and have a chance to ring up other fans to make sure they are also listening?
Hi everybody, this is John here. This is Paul, George,
and Ringo.
And we're very happy to be on your program once again.
Hello everybody, this is Steve Marinucci, and I'm talking with Bill Last, the author of this book called The Beatles Collected Videography, and it's a guide to collecting group and solo videos from 1962 to 2024. Bill, how you doing?
Very good. So nice to finally see and talk with you at the same time.
As I was doing the prep for this, I'm going, I know his name. And I went through the book and I saw the letter from Charles Rosenet, and so that's where I remember you from, is from Good Day Sunshine. You've been around Beatle collecting for a long time. You contributed a column on collecting for Good Day Sunshine way back in the days when Charles Rosenet was editor. Talk about your history of collecting and when did you get the idea for this book?
I'll try to keep a timeline here. I don't remember if this is accurately true, but this is how I remember it. In January of 1964, we started to hear the Beatles on my father's car radio, so I knew of them. And I could swear that there were Beatles cards out before the Ed Sullivan show. So it could have been only a week before, but they already started. And so we kind of knew February 7th, Ed Sullivan's coming up. So I did see the first Ed Sullivan show. I missed the second one. I had to catch that on a rerun, and I saw the third one at home. So I was a fan right from the beginning. Later on, I joined the official Beatles fan club, Beatles USA Limited, so plugged in with all of that stuff. In my collecting, it really didn't start to become a business, meaning dollars and cents, until the first conventions in 1974. You had Joe Pope do his Boston convention, and a couple months later, Mark Lapidus did the first Beatle Fest. Then all of a sudden, Beatles became dollars and cents.
Yeah.
It wasn't just for the fun of it anymore. I mean, I wish I could go back to that first Beatle Fest with a tractor trailer truck and load up some of the stuff there at those prices at that time. So as the 70s wore on, I had my own mail order house called Beatles America, and I would buy, sell, trade, and that's how I acquired my picture sleeve collection and everything else. I bought all the original albums, or I should say they were given to me as gifts for birthdays and Christmas and other things. And so I was a fan of the albums right through. So when Charles came along, Charles and I had been friends since his first convention, which I believe was 1979. And
I think it's mentioned in the book too. I don't remember what date it was.
It's 78 or 79. I'm pretty sure it was 79. We met at a local record store that sadly is no longer there. The guy that handled the 45s department, he kept telling me, "Oh, you got to meet this guy, Charles." And he kept telling Charles, "You got to meet this guy, Bill."
Was that record store owned by a guy named Walter?
No, this was called Cutler's Records and Tapes. I think I know who you're talking about. Walter ran a store in Waterbury.
There we go.
Brass City Records.
There we go.
That's Walter, because I would meet him at all the various record shows. He was a dealer. Every Sunday he was out on the road someplace. And he had probably the coolest record shop, because you could go in there and not only get the normal stuff, but he carried bootlegs,
he did
all kinds of things, and magazines and other things that related to the culture. So it was a really cool store. I miss seeing him. He's passed away a number of years ago.
Yeah, I know that.
But I always remember he was the only guy in the room that had a ponytail.
Ah, okay. My one story about Walter is he had the Beatles BBC box set, the Great Dane thing.
Yep.
And I had ordered it just before Christmas. And it shouldn't have arrived before Christmas, but it did.
Wow.
It was like, whoa. But anyway, so that's my story about Walter. But I had a number of phone calls with him, and he was great. He was great.
Yeah, he was a good guy and very knowledgeable. I'm not really sure if he collected or what he collected because walking into his store was like walking into a collector's shop. So I don't know if it was Dylan, the Stones. I don't know what was his favorite.
Yeah, a friend of mine who traveled around a lot at that time got to visit him. I never did. Anyway, so when did you start putting the book together, though?
All right. Well, I was the earliest amongst my peers to get a VCR, and
Mhm.
it was a high-end professional Panasonic stereo,
Okay. Ooh,
everything.
stereo. Okay.
Stereo. But this was for pro use, not for your living room TV. So, I started collecting video pretty much right from the beginning. Got it in early 81. So there was a lot of John Lennon in the news that year. So
Hmm.
I just remember grabbing all that stuff and saving it on videotapes. And we get to a point in time where I have so much stuff, I wanted to keep it in some sort of organizational format.
Hmm.
So I write for a fanzine called Octopus's Garden.
I
It
remember
is
that.
out of Massachusetts.
Right.
And the editor, Tom, has been very good to me. And so as I composed the different sections, I started with Beatles first. So I let him serialize my book with my early research. So,
Mhm.
I mean, this kept us busy for almost 3 years. I started in 2017 to do
Okay.
this. At that time, I was still, I was writing for Octopus's Garden and he would serialize it. And I think in order, I did Beatles, then I did Paul, because I knew they were going to be the three or the two biggies as far as listing everything and getting into everything. I knew Ringo wouldn't be too bad. I knew George wouldn't be too bad. And there was more than on John than I thought, but put the sections of the book together. Then I started to flesh it out with other articles that originally were in Octopus's Garden, but reformatted and added to whatever. So I
Hmm.
just wanted to get my collection in order, which is why I call the book collected videography. It's not a complete videography. It's not the all encompassing end all and be all videography. It's what I have managed to collect and put in some sort of knowledgeable order that if I want a fast fact, I can get it from the book.
Okay.
A friend of mine who's also no longer with us was always after me. When are you going to write a book? When are you going to write a book? When are you going to write a book? And he is thanked amongst the people that I thank in the beginning of the book. But he had a fascination with Ringo and his all star band. And as we know, there have been over a dozen permutations of that band. So he'd ask me a question about what year was Eric Carmen in the band or what year was this individual. I just didn't have that all in my brain anymore. So it was, I think Ringo's section was the most joyful because I actually go and check all star band members and tours and years and what's been released and what's not been released. So book came out in March of 2025 and I'm still out there promoting it. I'm very happy with the response it's gotten. And your opinion?
I thought it was really good. I was really impressed. I mean, that's not an easy job to do. So,
Like I said, it took from teen to early last year. I think right after Christmas 2024 is when we submitted the book to Amazon and have to follow all their guidelines, so on and so forth. And they accepted my book proposal, for lack of a better word, in less than 48 hours. So we were in business, and there was just pulling the trigger, tell them to go ahead, and we've been doing it ever since.
and going through the book, there were several things, that flashed in my memory bank.
Yeah,
And one of the Beatles things was the Complete Beatles, if you want to call it that, Malcolm
yeah.
McDowell documentary. That obviously, unfortunately, is not in print at the moment, although you can see it online. And what did you think about that? I mean, universally, it's gotten such great reviews. It's probably one of the best out there of.
Well, It's absolutely great for its time, and it tells the story better than anything else up to the anthology. If I try to get someone who knows little or nothing about the Beatles, and I say, hey, you want to watch a DVD that'll introduce you to the Beatles? I choose Complete Beatles all the time because in 2 hours, you get a really accurate portrayal of their history and what could fit into 2 hours.
Right. And it's really irritating how many bad documentaries there are.
Yep.
The public domain documentaries just completely turn me off.
First of all, you have to stay away from any documentary that does not have their original music in it. Just push it aside. Don't even bother because you'll see the same airport clips and train clips over and over again.
So, I mean, that's one way that's a good tip for anybody that is interested. I'm just going to go down and pull out
Go
that because
ahead.
I pulled out stuff in the book. What do you know about the 3D project, Yellow Submarine project that got canned?
Yeah, I really didn't do any research on that because it got canned and it just, if it had come out in some way, shape, or form, it would have been in the book. Then maybe I will throw that in on an addendum. We're already keeping track of releases for a revised edition of the book a couple years down the line.
Would you have, I mean, given what had been released since then, and I'm thinking specifically of the Christmas Carol with Jim Carrey, would you think that have, I know there was a big uproar at the time. People did not want to see it. They thought it would be terrible. Do you think that would have been a terrible project? Do you think they made the right move to kill it?
I have a phrase that I use when people ask me, I heard something new came out. You're a collector. You must have run out and bought it right away. You pick and choose what you want to add to your collection. I tend to prefer things of their time. No
Okay.
matter what they do to Yellow Submarine, it is not going to take away from the original movie, which I saw 3 Saturdays in a row at the local cinema house. Remember buying the album shortly after Christmas. And that's what brings it back to me. I don't care how they dress it up. I'd watch it. I'd probably buy it if they put it out on DVD just to be a completist. But I wouldn't go out of my way or go crazy over it. So I prefer things of their time.
Hmm.
It's all right to fix audio and make that better. It's fine to color correct the picture and make it look as good as the anthology and let it be looks now. But you're at least you're leaving the essence of it in its own time.
You have a whole chapter on the Beatles cartoons. Do you think Apple should put those out?
I think they should put out maybe a 1 disc or 2 disc compilation. Test the waters, put out a single disc. Each show would run about 20 minutes without commercials. So you could fit 5 of those on a DVD or maybe even 6. Throw it out, see what happens. And if there's a good response, then we can talk about volume 2 or putting out the whole series down the road.
I think they were afraid that people wouldn't look at it for what it was, as your phrase, a product of the time. But I mean, Warner does it with their old cartoons, and
Yeah.
people accept it and people understand. So, I mean, I think they're cute. They're silly. They're very
Yeah.
silly, as a matter of fact. But
The follow the bouncing ball. I have given that to relatives that are 4 and 5 years old, and they care more about following the bouncing ball than they do the actual cartoons, although they'll watch them all. It was really, at least it's helped a couple of my relatives learn to read in those very early years.
hmm
They can ask mom for a certain song by the Beatles. They just got it off, and I didn't have to Beatle them that much. I just gave them a copy of some of the cartoons.
What did you think of the Peter Jackson version of Let It Be? Did you think that should be the version that everybody looks at, or do you think,
Well, at this point, I think it's going to be the standard. However, I wish he could have just reworked exactly what he had. Like, for example, in the original Let It Be, you've got the going from Twickenham to Apple, then from Apple to the roof. You got the picture coming down and opening back up to do the next scene. Those are missing in the new Let It Be. They don't do that closed door, open door to the next scene. So they're right away. I thought a couple of camera angles were slightly different, but I mean, it's very, very close. But because it has a little difference to it, we have to now refer to it as the Peter Jackson version.
Right.
Oh, what version do you have? Oh, I got a copy of Let It Be. Is it the Peter Jackson version? So you win, you lose.
What did you think of Get Back?
I enjoyed it, and I've been through it a couple of times already. I watch it in bits and pieces. If you're a hardcore Beatles fan, I don't think there's anything in there not to like. The more you watch that, the more you wonder why Michael Lindsay Hogg made Let It Be a little on the drab side.
Mm-hmm.
And I think part of the reason is the picture wasn't as vibrant as it could be because it had been blown up. But for example, if you take the 88-minute Let It Be movie and you excise two short scenes, you excise the scene where George and Paul are having their little spat without knowing what came before or after it. And you take out that little bit where Paul is talking to John and John just looks bored. He has his head in his hands. He's not making eye contact with Paul about going out and touring and we should do this, that, and the other thing. If you took that little bit out and you took the Paul and George spat out, I don't think people would call it as miserable a movie as it is because there's nothing on. They seem to be having a good time at Twickenham, at least what we see, and they seem to be having a good time downstairs at Apple and on the roof. There's really nothing negative in the rest of the movie, and that's a movie I've watched 100 times since 1970.
Right. Do you think Get Back replaces Let It Be as
No,
no?
no. Get Back is a precursor to Let It Be. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
And
no,
if you have an interest in the Beatles, like I'm turning on a friend of mine's granddaughter to the Beatles, and I bring her stuff every couple of weeks, and she has been through the whole 8 hours, and she's been through Let It Be, and she loves it all. Maybe someone that doesn't want to do an 8 hour dive would be happy with the standard Let It Be. They look and sound better than any version we're ever going to hear or see again.
okay. Do you think Paul was trying to rewrite history there with that?
Well, I could say that if Paul was involved in the editing, but Michael Lindsay Hogg was the person responsible for the scenes and in what order and what years. I don't know if he was trying to please Paul. Obviously, he wasn't trying to please John because there were some scenes filmed with John and Yoko, and they were not used in Let It Be. I don't know.
See, now I think there was an attempt to do that.
Okay.
And for that reason, I've always kind of looked down on Get Back. I've just, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, Let It Be is the history, and
Okay.
that's the way it should be. I saw Let It Be many times between then and now. I first saw it, like you, I saw it in the theater, and yeah, I definitely think Get Back is below Let It Be. And I know that a lot of people probably watching this don't agree with that, but as
The
someone,
only thing is, when you've always heard that it was just miserable day to day, hour by hour, and then you see Get Back, you see that not all of it was as miserable as it was. I think they also looked down on it because it came out just after Paul announced he was leaving the Beatles, and people were already pissed at him for doing that. So it's hard to say. I recommend both. If you have a limited amount of time, watch Let It Be. If you want to do the deep dig, go for Get Back.
do you think both of those things should, well, Get Back is already out on DVD. Do you think the Peter Jackson Let It Be should be on DVD too?
Yes, and this is what I heard. When they put out Get Back on DVD, it did not sell as well as they thought it was going to. And so when Let It Be came along, they just passed on it.
Well, they had originally said it was going to be included with Get Back,
Right, right.
and that was a big disappointment. I mean, it was there in the press release that that was going to happen, and I was very disappointed that they didn't do that. I couldn't believe that
Well, you
they
know what? Christmas comes but once a year. In one of these years, we're going to hear in the fourth quarter that Apple and Universal are putting out the original Get Back movie and Let It Be, never before available on DVD, in the same package.
I agree.
Shall we start counting it down now?
Yeah, I agree. Let's talk about A Hard Day's Night, which is kind of in a unique situation because the
Yep.
Beatles don't have the copyright to it.
Yeah.
Which version or versions do you think are the best?
It's gotten better each time. So whatever the latest one is, I don't remember the company off the top of my head.
The Criterion. Criterion is the most recent.
Okay, then that would be the one to watch. Although I also ran across, and I do list it in the book, that the TV series there showed the original Hard Day's Night and Help in their original mono soundtracks from film negatives that were found in a barn in Pennsylvania.
Hmm. Okay.
I
Interesting.
forget I forget the name of the. I have it listed here. Let's see. Uh, Oh, here it is. Okay, so I traced the release history of A Hard Day's Night. So I am going to say the absolute pinnacle would be the Criterion Collection on either Blu-ray or DVD. But if we go back a few, the American Movie Channel, Movie Classic
Ah,
AMC,
okay. Okay.
okay, they're the ones that put out A Hard Day's Night and Help back in 1996.
Okay.
Now, in the chronological order of there, at that time, A Hard Day's Night, this was the only broadcast. It never was released. The next physical Hard Day's Night was its first appearance on MPI Home Video DVD in 1997.
Right. And everybody still loves that one.
Yeah.
What
Oh,
do you think of the Miramax one?
I rate them all pretty much the same. I like the bonuses. I suppose now they're cleaning it up again for the umpteenth time for some. I don't really know how much better you can get. It looks dazzling on my TV set in my 70-year-old eyes, so that's all I can go by.
Yeah, I just watched it the other night on Apple TV, and so I mean that version, which I can't remember if they started with the Criterion logo or not, but that version was pretty good. So yeah, yeah, it's funny that they're still playing around with it. What do you think the chances are of them releasing live at Shea Stadium? Even I mean, we did get to see it in the theater. Those of us that were lucky to
Right.
see it in
I did as
3K.
well. And of course, it has the two songs missing, so we know it's ready. We know they could put it out tomorrow, but at about 30 minutes, they would have to put something else with it here. I always thought, and I did a column of this for the Octopus's Garden, there could be a box set called The Beatles on Television. Disc one, or program one would be the It's the Beatles telecast from late in 63. That was a Brian Epstein authorized television special. Okay. Next, we go to Around the Beatles, which is also a Brian Epstein sanctioned piece of film. Then after that, we have the music of Lennon and McCartney. Then we have, did I forget one here? Live at Shea Stadium. None of those have been fully released. And then just throw in Magical Mystery Tour just to make it a set of five. So here you have five Beatles television programs that were originally made for British television, but they kind of made it over here slightly hacked up. Like the version of the American Around the Beatles is completely different from the UK version of Around the Beatles.
You know, I
The
don't know if I've ever seen the UK version.
Yeah, it's and there's I forget who it is. At the beginning of the program, they list all the people that are going to be on it.
Okay.
And this is after the cannonball and bugle horns. And so in the American version, they re jiggled the segments around and they actually left off one of the singers on the special, but yet they're shown at the beginning in the opening credits. They didn't take it out of
Hmm.
there. But yes, the UK version is longer, obviously, and in a completely different order than the American version. We got a slice and dice version.
I didn't know that. That's interesting. I
Well,
remember
if I could tell you something you don't know, I feel pretty good about myself.
the very first version I got of that I bought from it was pretty expensive too. It was a VHS copy and it was colorized, not colorized really, but it had a yellow film over it.
Like a
And
tint.
yeah, and I was really ticked off about that.
Uh,
Especially after I saw it in full black and white. It was like, what
yeah.
did I do that for? You know? But in any event, speaking of A Hard Day's Night again, did you ever see the Mac CD-ROM?
I own it. And I bought it years before I ever owned the computer. I might have tried it once, but I couldn't tell you much about it. But I do own it. Maybe I should put that in and see if it still works.
I don't have a Mac computer, but when I worked at the newspaper, we had Macs, and I brought one to work, and the picture was like that big. It was
Yeah.
tiny. It was terribly tiny. I can't remember if the script was on there or something. It seems like there were some extras on there, but it's been so
Yes.
long since I've watched. I don't own a Mac other than my phone, so I can't, and my iPad, so I can't see it.
Do
But
you know if on Mac it was the only way it came out, or could it have come out in another format?
it seems to me there was a second version, and I don't remember if it was a Windows version or not. I think I have them both. Where I have them, I don't know, but I
Oh, I know where
honestly,
mine is. It's just it would take a while to dig it out.
yeah, yeah, I understand that definitely. Let's talk about solo Beatle for a minute.
Okay.
There's a lot of Paul. There's a lot of John. There's less of George, and there's practically, well, and there's, other than the one DVD that you mentioned, there's nothing of Ringo, and it's really a shame that neither of them have really gone through. Although you did mention the Apple and the Dark Horse compilations that George put
Yeah.
out, but they've really done nothing recently, and it's
Yeah.
really a shame.
We just, well, Ringo did. And now the easy way out is to do a visualizer
Hmm.
or a lyric version, which takes probably someone an afternoon to put together with absolutely no input from anybody else. But Ringo did an excellent video for Long, Long Road.
Did you mind the A on that? Because people on my Facebook group were complaining about the AI. I didn't have a problem with it. After I
Yeah,
looked at it, I went, no, this is great. I mean, they did the same thing on Free as a Bird, for God's sake,
yeah,
you know?
yeah. No, I like it. And there's a little featurette on, behind the scenes. It was directed by his daughter-in-law, Barbara's daughter from
Oh,
an
really?
earlier
Okay.
marriage.
I don't think
Yeah,
I've seen
so
that.
she has a very Italian name. I slips me at the moment, but yeah, she directed it. And this little featurette, it's probably on there next to the Long Long Road video. And then George's stuff is they put out the video for Give Me Love, Give Me Peace on Earth using the claymation. And I understand what a great work of art it is, and it won all kinds of awards. But I'd rather see real footage of George than a claymation version. And then they did that one with all of the guest stars in it. The last couple of videos George has put out is there was a computerized animated video for Sunshine Life for Me, Sail Away Raymond. There was a lyric video for Be Here Now. Give Me Love, Give Me Peace on Earth. That was a visualizer video. And yeah, My Sweet Lord had all these guest stars in it. Ringo was even a guest star in it. But it doesn't have any rhyme or reason. Is someone going to run out and buy All Things Must Pass to get My Sweet Lord that they saw this little film with all these guest stars in it in a movie theater throwing popcorn at each other? I mean,
Yeah.
it's nice to watch and say, oh, look at all the famous people in there, but I have my little peeves with each of them here and what they've put out. George's estate really would need to put out a DVD of his Japan concerts.
Right. Yeah, I was sitting here thinking that too. And
Only 5 complete songs have been issued from that concert. Okay. I know the 74 Dark Horse tour was in many people's eyes a little on the weak side due to his voice, but there has been footage I've seen where his voice was nicely acceptable. Maybe they couldn't get an entire concert out of it, but if you were going to put a George Harrison live, how about give us a little bit of 74, a little bit of Japan, and a little bit of the Royal Albert Hall, his final concert anywhere?
hmm
I think you could make a nice 2-hour documentary out of that, showing his major performances. You could throw in the Prince's Trust concert with Eric Clapton and Ringo. That'd be nice. So that's what I would like to see out of the George estate. Okay.
Okay.
Paul, I really can't. I mean, he's so well documented. I can't think of anything that jumps out at me that Paul should do, and he doesn't seem to run out of any ideas. My peeve for John and Yoko is in those early years, they seem to videotape their every move from when their feet touched the carpet in the morning to when they went to bed at night. And of everything that they did, how come the UNICEF concert in which John introduced Cold Turkey? Well, he didn't introduce it, he had done it before. Cold Turkey and Don't Worry, Kayoko, with all the guest stars, including George. Why wasn't that filmed? It just wasn't filmed. The only film that exists from that is some black and white newsreel footage. Now, that may not be for everyone, but it's something that is absent from John's video timeline. And then Ringo again is, I'd always like to see, and I mentioned in the book that the individual promo videos are my favorite video to watch. Put out your own best of video, George and Ringo. I mean, Lennon and McCartney have had theirs, yeah, but none of them are complete. You save the underground to get your complete stuff. But yeah, I guess the biggest thing is I'd really like to see that UNICEF concert from John and Yoko.
Did you see the Power to the People film or the
Yes.
concert film? I thought that was good. I was quite impressed. I hope the signals that we're going to get that on physical release are true.
Yeah. And it was nice that it was completely reshot from the beginning because all we have up to now is the original ABC television broadcast. And then what Yoko put out in 87, the live in New York City. It's interesting how both sides of their 1972 single, Woman Is, dot, 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 and Sisters, Oh Sisters were left off of Power to the People, both film and audio collection.
Yeah.
Now, I could understand Woman Is, dot, 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 but there was room for Sisters, Oh Sisters. It wasn't like it would go over the 2-hour mark or something for a DVD. It could have easily. Why was that left off? Yet we get both of those on the original ABC TV broadcast and later on Live in New York City videotape. So again, we understand about Woman, but Sisters, Oh Sisters, it would have given Yoko another song, and most people don't mind that song. If you're a
Yeah.
marginal Yoko Ono fan, that's one of her more listenable pieces of work.
Right. Yeah, that whole situation is just really strange. There were
I
one
don't I don't mind like the triple screens like they first did in Woodstock way back when.
oh yeah.
Yeah, but I cringe when I see a 3-part screen and the middle image is one thing and the two side images are the same, just turned towards each other. So John goes from playing a right-handed guitar to a left-handed guitar so they could be pointing at each other. That, oh my God, couldn't you have found 5 seconds of anything else rather than do that?
Another thing is the fact that they used Open My Box both in the
Yeah.
movie and in the CD set, and they even say that the song was banned. but it's there.
Well, yeah, a band to the extent that it was the B-side in England, but when John submitted it to Apple in Alan Klein, they banned it. And in fact, they were not going to put that on the B-side, which is why they chose Touch Me as the B-side in America. But it never got out on a single. I can't see it ever getting any airplay unless they have the Yoko Ono album in their library and can play it there.
You also mentioned Cilla Black in the book, and I'm wondering if you saw the Love of the Love clip that she, well, there's a story about that I posted on my YouTube channel that archivist Keith Badman dug it up from Australia and took it to her and showed it to her, and she was just totally, she totally loved it. Have you seen that clip though? That
I don't believe I have. Is it out there on YouTube?
Yes, in fact,
Okay.
I have a playlist of it, of the story that Keith Badman tells and that video, and
Is it black and white or color?
she's in black and white.
Yeah.
You can just see her watching it. I believe it's a 63 clip. You can just see her watching it and going, "Oh my," because he remembers what she said. He said she was marveling at her hairdo and everything like that, and it's really interesting to see that. If you had to make a list of the most necessary Beatles videos that somebody should own of what's available now or what's fairly easy to get, what would you? I realize that's a tough question to come up with, but
Well, no, it's actually covered in my book.
the
So
book,
I believe it is on page 5, right at the beginning.
right
It,
at the beginning.
the 4 complete Ed Sullivan shows, the first US visit, the Hard Day's Night, the making of a Hard Day's Night. You can't do that. Help, Magical Mystery Tour, Yellow Submarine, the Beatles anthology, Love All Together Now, One Plus, Turning the Page, 8 Days a Week, The Making of Sergeant Pepper, and Get Back. And there
Okay.
were 13 titles there. And then if I had to tell someone to go out and buy one, they had a choice of one DVD about what the Beatles were all about, I would say A Hard Day's Night.
Yeah.
Secondly, I would say One Plus for all the individual song promos.
I remember when they announced that and when I got it, how happy I was that we had this finally. I mean, it was like a dream come true. Everybody had wished for that, and it was just a wonderful, it was, it was something that they did right. They did it
Yeah.
very right.
Well, in my book also, uh, I
Okay.
have the page numbers memorized here.
You ran down the list of
Yeah,
videos.
I did a separate article about the Hey Jude and Revolution videos that were all shot on the same day.
Hmm.
Okay, right after page 5, we have page 7.
Page
The
7, yes.
Beatles One Plus Deluxe Limited Edition exclusive videos. And I kind of outline what is new and on these discs that have never been out before. There were a few videos on there that were kind of made for that collection that we could have lived without, but generally, Apple did a really good job on that.
Okay. Um, I can't think of anything else to say. Is there anything you want to say that I missed?
Well, just that my book can be ordered on Amazon, where
That's a good thing.
it costs $22 plus tax and shipping. Unless you have Amazon Prime, then the shipping is free. Or you can contact me if you want me to send you a signed copy. And the cost of that would be $20, no tax, and $5 medium mail shipping for a total of 25. So a bit cheaper. I can be paid through PayPal, but I recommend someone contacting me first, which is Bill Last at att.net. You need all 3 L's in there, BILLLAST at att.net, and I will handle your request, and you can pay me by PayPal or put a check in the mail, whatever's good for you.
Okay. Bill, thank you. I think your book is a great resource for those videos. And thank you for doing it. And thank you for talking to me.
Thank you, Steve.
All right. Anyway, I'm going to say thank you everyone for watching and stay tuned because there may be more here. So I'm going to click off the button. Oop, wait a minute. Did it stop recording? There we go. Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in today. Thanks to Bill Last for the great interview. If you haven't already subscribed to our podcast, please do, so you'll get immediate notification when we publish a podcast. And whatever else we do, we put up little shorts on YouTube from our archives. So anyway, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you soon. Be seeing you.
Be seeing you.